Hi, I'm Benton Stokes.
And I'm Elane O'Rourke.
And this is Cocktail Theology. Well, it is the end of the summer, and we are celebrating with a summery drink.
It is a very summery drink, but I know that you really love summer, and I'm sure our listeners do too.
I do love summer.
I wouldn't say that we're exactly celebrating the end of summer. It's more like we're memorializing.
Yeah, I can't even talk. I've only had one sip, and I can't say memorializing.
Memorializing. Yeah, I have to spell it in my head before and then read it. I can't just say it.
So
what is it we're drinking again?
We are having frozen watermelon daiquiris.
Oh, yeah.
And you so wisely froze some watermelon that we had left over from last month, I think.
Yep.
And now we are enjoying it in a daiquiri.
That's right. So this is very tasty.
It's very, very tasty. The interesting ingredient that I didn't expect to be in here was kosher salt. And it actually adds a little bit of a zing to it that's nice.
Yeah, it's really good without being salty at all. Mm-hmm. Where if we put salt on the rim or something, it would just be salt, right?
Right.
But it brightens everything.
It really does.
And we've got paper straws in fully compostable paper straws. And although they look really cute, they're not actually helpful. Mm.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
You know, if they start getting bogged down in the frozen watermelon part. It's a shame.
It is kind of a shame.
It is kind of a shame.
But these are very tasty.
They are. And we can't have them after this because A, we have no more frozen watermelon and there is no watermelon to be had anywhere in the world after today.
Right.
And B, it's the end of summer.
It's true.
All right. So what are we talking about today?
So we are discussing moral compasses. Or a moral compass. I think, the hope as a society is that we can agree on some things that are moral standards. That's the hope. That's where we are. The conversation you and I were having earlier really about moral relativism and where are we as a society in terms of what is morally right, what is morally wrong. Where is truth in all of this? Capital T truth, small t truth, any truth.
any truth.
Any truth.
Yeah.
Which harkens back to, early in the Trump presidency and the alternative facts narrative that was being woven into news, fake news and whatever, and trying to create alternate realities, really.
Right. Which
just, further exacerbated the political schism in the country. Because then you have one giant group of people believing one set of quote unquote facts, and then you have the rest of us that are kind of like, but that's not actually real or true. Yeah. So what does that mean? Yeah. I think this is a great thing to talk about. And listeners, as always, we want to hear from you. We are not throwing out answers here necessarily. These are observations today. We want to hear your observations and how these things have affected you and continue to affect you. CocktailTheology.com is where we always are.
So as much as I would like to blame the entertainer turned president for our decline of any sense of what it means to be moral, I don't think I can blame him.
No.
I wish I could. I wish I could just say, oh, there's another thing he did. We were all golden children until somehow he got elected.
Right.
So, yeah, we can't do that, right? But there is something to that whole disagreement about what truth is that I think underlies some of this.
I think so, too.
And I would say that as a nation, we have lost a moral compass, if we ever had one. But we definitely don't have one now. And
agreed.
And my view, which I think I've stated before in our podcast, is that we don't have a moral compass because we no longer have any sense of the common good. We've lost this idea that it is better for more people to have good and that what I do affects my neighbors.
Yeah.
Right? We've lost that completely.
Yeah.
And the only time it's kind of pulled out of a pocket is when somebody wants to condemn what somebody else is doing. So when you think about the arguments about parental rights, which only actually affect one set of parents in the country, the other set is going, but you're taking away our rights, and they're saying yes, but that's when we get this kind of idea that we affect other people, except it always comes to, I may affect other people, but my way's right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think what you're pointing to as that real deep not knowing what truth looks like, or if there is something we can call true, is really part of all of this.
Yeah, I think it is too.
And then there's a lot of cultural change that happened around it too. But let's go back to when I say we've lost a moral compass, here's what I mean. It isn't so much that people disagree about what's moral. It's that we say we know what's moral and then don't do it at all.
Yeah.
And condemn others who do it for doing it wrongly.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what I say about the moral compass piece. It doesn't mean that people aren't good to each other. It doesn't mean that people don't behave morally, any of that. But we've lost a sense of truthiness and connection. And those two are really required for there to be an idea of what it means to be moral.
Right. There needs to be this underlying foundation that, first of all, people matter. Mm-hmm. And so if somebody's going to die because of something that I'm doing,
right,
then I stop doing it.
Right.
But we lost that too.
Right.
We lost that in big ways during COVID because people would go out sick. People would refuse to take care of themselves and do the things that you had to do to take care of the public health and put other people at risk. Really, what they were communicating was my life, or better, my rights are more important than your life. That basic idea that people are valuable and that life matters and that we value that above most everything else, that definitely started to disintegrate.
Yeah. Yeah, if it was whole at all, it really became clearly not whole during COVID.
Right.
And I want to say for our listeners, I have zero illusion that the world was good and people were all treated well before whatever this decline was.
Oh, right now.
Right? And it's important. I think it's important to say that, though, right? It isn't like, well, back in my day.
Well, yeah, we do have that nostalgic view about good old days, but good old days actually never really existed, not the way we remember them.
No, and there were plenty of people in this country who didn't experience them as good old days at all. So
right.
I think we're not trying to get back to something. We're trying to get a sense of what would it mean to live morally together.
Yeah.
I have heard the argument that if you don't believe in God, then there's no reason to have morality, or there's no basis for morality. So, if you don't believe in God and you don't believe you're going to get punished by being cast into the nether worlds or whatever, then why would you be good?
Yeah.
So there's that. Don't buy that.
No, not at all.
Plato proved that one wrong. But there's also that sense of, in order to validate what is good, you need a bigger than human source of what it is. What do you think? Like, do we need God to be good?
No.
Okay.
No, I think we can come to a consensus on what is good with the absence of an agreed upon deity that proclaims what is good and what isn't. I think as people with brains, we can come to consensus as to what is morally fair, what is morally just, what is morally unjust, what is right, what is wrong, basically. For anybody that has any sense of there is a bigger something than me, our tendency is to want to defer to the bigger something.
Yes.
To tell us what to do and to enlighten us. And I think in general, if you go back over history, all of the collective bigger somethings, all the world religions, we can all agree on certain things. And that really can form the framework of a moral compass. But I do think that people who don't ascribe to that, there are atheists who are thinking people who put really amazing stuff out into the world about being good, being kind, being just, and all that stuff. So I don't think you have to have God to have morality.
Right.
But I do think that a lot of people, a lot of Christians, conservative Christians will blame a lack of God for the evil in the world. Well, if we just had prayer in schools, well, if we just posted the 10 Commandments on the town square in every little town in the world, well, if we just got all those books about the gays out of all the libraries.
Okay, you're starting to sound like your hometown.
I know I am. I feel it coming.
You can feel it.
The Alabama it's just coming out more and more. The more I say this stuff, it's just coming out. So, but you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
We don't have to have religion to give us morality.
I'm totally with you on that. I mean, just thousands of years of philosophers have proved that. Okay. So let's set aside all of the people who either don't believe in God or who believe in a different kind of God or who think something's bigger, whatever it is. Let's just set all of those people aside. Let's just look at Christians for a minute.
Okay.
Let's just sit with the Christians.
My favorite.
Your favorite. I just want to sit with the Christians. There are generally two things that we say that we believe that are foundational for morality. One is the 10 Commandments. And then the other one should be what Jesus said all the commandments came down to, which is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and your neighbor as yourself. Now, we can parse the as yourself as long as we want, but those are the two bases for what is considered Christian morality.
Yeah.
And yet,
yeah,
those do not seem to be the basis for most people's morality.
No.
Certainly not the latter. The loving God and loving neighbor is actually really hard. It takes attention. It doesn't tell you do this, don't do that. There's no little lists that you can check off, which means that you have to actually pay attention and you have to be working to start from love. 10 Commandments, clearer, but they don't contain all those pesky things that people want to be upset about.
Right.
They just don't. Like, nowhere in the 10 Commandments is there any reference to the right to bear arms. Not even a little bit.
No.
And in fact, if anything, the 10 Commandments and the morality that grew up around it is about not standing your ground and defending what you have against everything else. That's just not what it is.
No.
So, can Christians have a moral compass? I mean, it seems to me that if we call ourselves Christian in any way that's meaningful, there's got to be a tie back to those two fundamental ideas of right and wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
Clearly, we don't have that.
No, we don't.
And I would say that it is less thought of than other ways of measurement. For example, I might measure what kind of good being I am by how much money I earn for my family. I might measure the worth of who I am and how I do by money I give blindly to charity. I might measure my goodness by the fact that I tipped somebody.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of us, I'm including myself in this, thinking about those very basic Christian things very much at all.
It's true.
But I think that if we as people who would call ourselves followers of Jesus or Christians don't use those as our fundamental bottom line, this is what it is to be good to other people. This is what it is to live in community. This is what it is to be a Christian nation. I'm using nation in the Old Testament sense, not in the political sense. If we're not starting from there, we have fundamentally missed the boat.
Definitely we have.
Yeah, I'm not feeling a lot of hope about us regaining a moral compass, but I think that there's a way to do that. I think that we do have a basis for that, and it is those two chunks. I mean, the 10 Commandments is actually a pretty mild set of things.
It really is.
The first 4 are about loving God, and the last 6 are about treating your neighbor well and being treated well.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
Right. And then the whole reason for the 10 Commandments was really to create a nation, the way that you just used it, to create a people. And these are the ways they will know you are different because you followed these 10 Commandments. Right. And there's nothing about Christians, really, in that regard that we all ascribe to that set us apart is different. We look and sound like everybody else. We drive the same cars. We behave just as badly in traffic. We
Guilty.
Unless we get back to those two very important things, which require attention, like you said, it's not as easy as just checking off, well, I did that today.
That's right.
Shine up my halo. It's a moment-to-moment kind of thing. Am I loving God right now? Am I loving my neighbor right now? Am I acting in a way that is loving toward this person that I disagree with? Or toward this person that just pissed me off, or whatever? Those are the things. Those are the markers. And really, that does take so much practice. And we talk a lot about spiritual practice in the ministry work we do. But it really does take paying attention and training your mind, training your will, training your body, training your soul, all these things, to pay attention to those things and to act in ways that are consistent with that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there really isn't a whole lot of hope.
No. And I guarantee you that there is no constitution or governmental set of laws in the world, even possible, that will get people to do this.
No.
What I mean by that is not that you shouldn't legislate things that are good. What I mean by that is you can't create a religious oligarchy as your way of envisioning the way to run a country, whether the oligarchy is the founding fathers or whether it is imams, right? It doesn't matter. If you think that setting up a set of rules that enforce a particular religious view will cause people to be good to each other and live well and be holy, and what I mean by holy is in tune with the way God would like us to be, okay? You've lost your mind.
You've lost your mind.
Because it just doesn't work. And it's certainly not what the founding fathers intended.
No.
At all.
No.
For me, I will speak for myself. For me, having a sense of morality that is based in my desire to follow Jesus and to live as he implored us to live,
right,
means that every other kind of what I think is right has to be able to fit into those things of love God, love neighbor.
Yeah.
And if I think something's right and it doesn't fit into that, I have a problem. And
yes.
I have to defer to that. So one of the challenges with things like the Second Amendment or standing your ground, where people hold on to this so much, does it actually contribute to loving God, loving your neighbor? Is it neutral to loving God, loving your neighbor, meaning it doesn't actually affect, if you eat hamburgers, it's not,
right,
it doesn't affect that, right?
Right.
Potentially. Or is it detrimental to loving God and loving neighbor? From what I witness in our society, being firmer about a perceived right to have weapons and a perceived right to protect your home or your property or whatever, having those as fundamental to your understanding of what it is to be in this society will pull you away from all those other things that Moses and Jacob and Jesus and all those folks said mattered.
Right.
I think they are fundamentally twisting of your own desires and ways of seeing other people. And that I'm using those just as an example. There are plenty of others.
Oh, sure.
But those are the ones that it seems like American Christians really want to cling to. Really want to hang on to.
Yeah.
It is measurably difficult to hold those as fundamental and also love God, love your neighbor as yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay. Maybe what we can do then as, us and then people who are listening with us, maybe what we can do is start practicing as we're making decisions that affect other people, and most of our decisions do affect other people, but as we're making those, is really measure them against what we think is good for us. And I think that people who think that standing their ground is good, they think it's good for them. Measuring what we think is good for us against those two things. Love God wholly, love your neighbor wholly.
Yeah.
Second to holy, right? And if it doesn't contribute to your doing that, you need to question whether it's a good thing to do. That's your moral compass.
That becomes your moral compass.
That becomes your moral compass.
I like that. Yeah. Listeners, what do you think? We would love to hear from you. Always want to hear from you. You can dissent. You can think differently than we do. We are not offended by that at all. But we love discussion. We love questions. We also enjoy hearing ideas that you guys have for topics for other episodes, cocktails, etc.
Yes.
So please do reach out. Cocktailtheology.com is where you can find us. Anything else?
I do think that watermelon daiquiris may make me love you more. So perhaps I should and since you're my neighbor, perhaps I should finish mine.
I believe that's probably a good thing.
You think that's
do.
a good thing? Okay, let's do that.
Let's do that. Till next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.